Did you know that the US government nuked a forest in Wisconsin to study what would happen? It's 1972 and Cold War tensions are on the rise. The USDA had already begun studying how radiation affected ecosystems, trying to predict the devastation a nuclear war with the Soviet Union might have on American forests. So the government decided to nuke Wisconsin. The Enterprise Radiation Forest Project began in 1968 when 1,440 acres of land in Oneida County's Enterprise Forest were leased to the federal government and set aside for research. The goal was to study the effects of radiation on forest ecosystems. So prior to the metaphorical bombing, the team thoroughly cataloged all of the plant and animal species in the area. In 1971, the project took a huge step forward when researchers acquired a lead pig, filled with a massive amount of radioactive cesium-137. The term lead pig refers to a container made of lead used to safely store and transport radioactive materials. The radiation source was set up at a unique spot where three types of forest converged, chosen specifically for its diverse environment and maximum science. The experiment began on May 3, 1972, with the forest irradiated for 20 hours a day, leaving only 4 hours for research. Thomas Rudolph, the project lead, spent as much time calming the fears of the locals and punting questions from Congress as he did studying the actual effects of radiation. The experiment was cut short after just one growing season due to budget constraints. By October 16, the irradiation stopped, but the research team kept gathering data until the project officially ended on June 30th, 1974. If you're wondering why Wisconsin isn't a radioactive hellscape filled with mutant cannibals, then you probably aren't from Minnesota. The lack of severe ecological damage can be explained by a few factors. First, the irradiation was localized. The tightly condensed area of trees also helped to block the radiation from traveling further. The experiment also only lasted for one growing season and at levels that likely didn't cause widespread harm. The area was closely monitored and no significant long-term changes were observed. The combination of the short experiment duration, the resilience of the forest ecosystem, and the controlled nature of the study helped mitigate any lasting environmental impact. But what if the Enterprise Radiation Forest experiment had lasted the full 20 years, as originally planned? Let's extrapolate. The area would likely have undergone significant and long-lasting changes. Despite the radiation levels being controlled, long-term exposure could have had far-reaching effects on the area's flora and fauna. First, let's look at plant life. After 20 years of continuous irradiation, we would have seen stunted growth across many tree species, with some potentially dying off altogether. Radiation would have interfered with the reproductive cycles of plants, reducing seed production and leading to a loss in plant diversity. Hardier species like ferns and grasses that could tolerate radiation might have dominated the forest, while the more sensitive trees like aspen and paper birch would have thinned out. Over time, we might have seen a much more barren, scrubby environment with fewer large trees and more ground-level vegetation. As for wildlife, the impact would have been equally profound. Extended irradiation could have weakened animal populations. Many species, particularly those with shorter lifespans, could have faced higher mortality rates. Larger animals, likely sensitive to the radiation, might have migrated away from the irradiated zone, leading to a steep decline in biodiversity. Genetic mutations in animals could have been more common, potentially causing physical deformities and behavioral changes. Predators would have faced difficulties finding healthy prey, while herbivores could have become more vulnerable due to weakened immune systems. The forest could have become a dead zone. Soil and microorganisms would also have been affected. Over 20 years, radiation could disrupt the soil's natural processes, slowing the breakdown of organic matter and making it harder for plants to grow. The forest floor might have been covered in only the hardiest species, like mosses and ferns, while the overall soil quality deteriorated. Visually, the forest would have looked strikingly different. Imagine a patchwork of stunted, mutated trees and overgrown ground-level plants. The radiation zone could have appeared desolate, even alien, with fewer trees and more sparse, scrubby vegetation. Without the dense canopy of tall trees, sunlight would have reached the forest floor, leading to an explosion of ground-level plant life, including shrubs, grasses, ferns, and weeds. The landscape might have taken on a more scrubland-like appearance, a radical shift from the verdant, dense forest it once was. But luckily, none of that came to pass. Today, the site is managed by the Oneida County Forestry and Parks Department. The Enterprise Radiation Forest is open to the public for hiking, birdwatching, and other outdoorsy shit you can put in your Tinder profile. And if you enjoyed this journey through Wisconsin's radioactive forest, then please drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and let's go on more hikes in hazmat suits.